Welcome to the podcast, Pilates for PTs, from business to clinical. Hi y'all, my name is Stephen Dunn. I co-own Core Therapy and Pilates in Austin, Texas, and I'm the founder of Pilates for PTs. I've been a physical therapist for over 20 years, and I've been teaching Pilates and gyrotonic in my physical therapy practice for the last 15 years. In this podcast, I interview experts from all over the world so that you can learn more on how to grow your business or how to improve your clinical skills as a Pilates instructor in the physical therapy world. Thanks for listening. Hey guys, welcome to the Pilates for PTs podcast, from business to clinical. I'm your host, Stephen Dunn, and let me tell you a little bit about myself and what this podcast is all about. My name is Stephen Dunn, and I've been a physical therapist since 1998. I graduated with a master's degree, and after 10 weeks of working as a traveler, I got laid off because of the first Medicare cap. And after about 8 months of looking for a job and moving to California, I was able to start working again in an HMO facility. Now, my first job was pretty bad. The pay was low in Los Angeles. It was an HMO facility. And I made it there for 2 years. And after 2 years, I was able to take another job, making a few more dollars an hour. And it was in downtown LA. It was in Koreatown. And I ended up making it there for about 4 or 5 months probably. And it was a workers' comp facility. And I ended up seeing about 50 people a day. And in that process of seeing 50 people a day there, I learned real quick that it was time for me to get out of the rat race of working for other people. And so I started working for myself, and I started setting myself up to work for myself, let me say it that way, by opening up my own contract business in 2001. So I graduated in 98. After July of 2001, I opened my own contract business in Los Angeles and started working a little bit of home health, a little bit of some assisted living facilities, but really started working at a couple of outpatient clinics or for a couple of outpatient companies that had multiple locations that I could fill in and work for. So that was kind of the start of my own business, and I knew real quick after a few years, again, of being in the field that I needed to own my own business. And this was kind of my stepping stone of getting into the business ownership, but without the overhead of having a full business of brick and mortar or whatnot. And so that was my first experience. After several years after about a year of running my own business, I was looking for work in Lake Tahoe. And this is the story I've told many times, and this is the story that gets me as a physical therapist into the Pilates world. And what ended up happening is, after looking for work in Lake Tahoe and handing out my resume, driving around the lake, I got a phone call from one of the business owners in Lake Tahoe up in Incline Village. And the guy asked me, "Hey, do you have any Pilates experience?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he politely said, "Okay, thank you very much," and hung up on me. And that was the end of the conversation. And it was very fascinating because I was like, what the heck is Pilates? And I had no idea. I'd never heard the word. It was just totally mind blowing that someone hung up on me because I didn't know something that he made it sound like every physical therapist in the world should know. And I didn't. So I researched it. And at the time, my girlfriend, my wife, was my girlfriend at the time, Cheryl. I said, "Cheryl, what is Pilates?" And she knew a little bit about Pilates. She had, at the gym she was working at, they had Pilates mat classes that were being offered, and she had taken a few. So she knew a little bit about it, but not necessarily a ton. And that was my first exposure to it. And then a couple weeks later, it was a Saturday morning, we were training for a marathon, and we were down walking on San Vicente Street. And it's a big long street that goes all the way up to Ocean Boulevard, and you can get your long miles in. Well, I stopped at a restaurant to go to the bathroom, and midway through the day, and when I came out of the restaurant, it was a little Italian place on San Vicente and 26th Street. I came out of there, and there was that sign that said physical therapy, Pilates. I was like, "Whoa, Pilates, there's that word again." And so I stuck my head in the window, looked around. It wasn't open, but I was able to look around and see some of the equipment. I had no idea what I was looking at. And that was my first exposure to seeing an actual studio. Well, a few weeks later, I was looking in the LA Times for a job, more contract work, right? And I'm flipping the pages, and I look in the page and under physical therapy, and it said, physical therapist needed, Pilates experience a plus. Well, the last guy hung up on me because I didn't have any Pilates experience. And this was the place that said Pilates experience a plus. So this was my, I called them up, and this was my first introduction into working in a Pilates studio. I ended up getting the job and was working for them a couple days a week. And after seeing the equipment and seeing the instructors work with people, I was totally fascinated with it and signed up for a teacher training program within a couple of weeks of starting to work there. So here I am, been out of school for just a few years, was really disappointed with everything I'd seen working in an HMO clinic, was really disappointed with what I'd seen working in a workers' comp clinic, and here I was all of a sudden working in a Pilates studio. And it was very different. And I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the amount of time that I got to see with people, spend with people. I enjoyed watching people really get better, and I really saw this work helping them between what I was doing with my hands and what Pilates was doing as a modality. And so after Cheryl and I, we decided to get our certification program, go through the certification program together. After we got certified, we opened our own clinic. Or let me rephrase that. We opened our own Pilates studio within one of the clinics that I was doing contract work for. And so instead of doing contract work for 4 or 5 locations, now all of a sudden I honed into one location and focused on building that one clinic. So Cheryl and I built that one clinic up over the course of a year, and this was 2002 now, the end of 2002 into 2003. And we built that clinic up and realized that it was time to go do it on our own. We learned what we could, and we were ready to get out of Los Angeles. And so we took a travel job. I took a travel job to go to Sonoma for about a year because I wasn't quite ready to go back to move to Texas. And I wanted to snowboard for one more snow season. So I took a travel gig up in the Bay Area and was able to drive over to Sugar Bowl, part of Lake Tahoe, to snowboard every Monday for the whole ski season as we took a year contract there. Then we moved to Texas, and we came here and we opened up Core Therapy and Pilates in 2005. We actually started renting a room from someone here in 2004, but we were officially open on tax day 2005. And so we've been open since then. We've had a great run where we took insurance for about 10 years, and now we're 100% cash based since January of 2016. We've been able to grow our business in a cash setting. I've been able to hire a therapist. We have 5 or 6 Pilates instructors working under my wife, Cheryl. And we work as a team between our physical therapy and Pilates program. Our Pilates instructors and our physical therapists all work together as a team, like a physical therapist and a PT assistant would do, or a physical therapist and a physical therapy tech or aide would do. So that's kind of my story of how I got interested in Pilates and how we opened a business and how we came to Austin and started a business here. And in that process, we've learned so much about running a business. We've learned so much about the clinical aspects of Pilates. And so this podcast came together after many years of people asking questions and us having answers and giving short answers and giving quick answers. And so over the last, maybe year, I put together a few Facebook groups where I was able to start interviewing prominent people in the physical therapy field, whether it was business related or clinical related, to just start getting some input from them and picking their brains and learning more from them. And so that's what this podcast is it's going to it's going to be a place to put all that information. It's going to be a common platform to have all that information in one place. And I'm going to be interviewing people from all walks in the Pilates field, from physical therapists and non-physical therapists, but to all Pilates instructors. We're going to be talking about clinical stuff as well as business stuff. Because again, the questions I get are frequently about business as much as they are about clinical. And we're going to be bringing in guests from all over. I'm looking forward to sharing my experience, but my experience is going to come out by asking the questions and interviewing the people on the podcast. So that's this is our introduction to the podcast. One thing I did want to say, as I was coming into a physical therapist, I was told I would never get into PT school. I got in. I got into PT school, I was told I would never pass the boards. I did fail the boards twice. I want to say that because I know a lot of people are going to hear this who are struggling with the boards and struggling as a physical therapist to get past those. I failed my boards twice, and since then have had a fantastic career. So I just want to share that little nugget of information. And by having all these little pieces of the pie and what I've learned from my experiences of being a bad test taker and what I've learned from really being forced into business when I didn't know anything about business and taking a couple of insurances and not knowing anything about billing and not knowing anything about anything business related and figuring it out, and then taking a big leap of faith and switching and going all cash based and not taking insurance at all, and then really having to learn a lot about marketing and how to get my message out. And that's when my business skills honed in and became much more skilled. So that's what we're here to share, the stories, the history, what's led to where we're at, but also interviewing others and to hear their input, get their input, and so we can all learn from each other in this amazing field, whether you're a physical therapist, whether you're a Pilates instructor, whether you're both, or whether you're one or the other. So that's my message for today. I look forward to many episodes on the Pilates for PTs podcast, From Business to Clinical. I'm your host, Stephen Dunn, with Core Therapy and Pilates in Austin, Texas, and I look so forward to providing this information for you today. Take care, and I look forward to it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast, and if you did, could you do us a favor and leave some love and write us a review? My name is Stephen Dunn. I help physical therapists incorporate Pilates into their physical therapy practice. If you would like more information on how you can incorporate Pilates into your physical therapy practice, then like my Facebook page, Pilates for PTs.